everybody. Thought I'd make a quick video showing the off-road camper build. So here we are out in Big Bend, taking the camper through its paces. You can see here we've set up camp and had an awesome time out exploring the four-wheel drive trails out here in Big Bend. So I'm going to do a video showing you the tour of the camper and then really the process that I took to get it built. So the camper measures about 15 feet from front to back. Here, starting at the front, you can see got a off-road hitch coupler that this is the part that connects right to the truck, and that will swivel 360 degrees. And there's the drawbar right there. And there's Liesl coming by to help us out. And then here is the tongue box, where we've got on this side the electrical panel. So you opening that up, you can see in the upper left we've got the battery monitor there, and then 100 amp hour AGM battery with solar charge controller, a couple of switches for disconnection from the solar panels, as well as the master disconnect inside the camper, a 2000 watt inverter where we can charge computers and the like. And on top we have a 180 watt solar panel, and there's a max air fan for inside, and fabricated the entire roof rack myself with the idea that we can have enough support to put a rooftop tent if we want to. Now looking inside, and there's Liesl coming in the other side, you can see we've got 4 dimmable LEDs. There's the max air from the inside. Liesl's taken off the removable curtains that my mom sewed for us. Here on the inside we've got a couple of compartments there that are quite big, about 2 feet on the inside, with some netting to hang things or use duffel bags like we've got in there now. And there's a slider in the back where we can hook an air conditioner to cool the cabin if we want. And then down underneath we've got the outlets for the Propex heater. You can see the vents there. We've got the thermostat for the heater, as well as the USB charger, the dimmer, and we've got a RV full-size mattress with a sleeping bag in there right now, but you can just go with sheets if it's cool. So here we have the 32-inch tires and some custom fabricated fenders, as well as some lights on top of the fenders. You can see we've got a Timbren 3500 HD suspension, and that's for off-road use, and it's got a cross member there we bolted in. And then moving to the back, we've got the propane tank, and the propane has got a Y valve there where we can use to run the stove, and inside here is the hot water heater. And we've got disconnections there for the gas, as well as that spigot there is where we hook up the hot water, and where we can wash dishes or take a shower. And the water comes in from the inside under the tank, and we've got a gauge there for measuring the fuel, and inside the gas runs inside for the Propex heater. We've got a Yakima swing hitch there for the bike rack, so we can swing that away and open up the back. We have bikes on, and here's the kitchen. So the first thing you'll see is the slider there for the fridge, and so this slides out where we can access the fridge. We've got a couple latches there to keep it all secure, and then in the back there's the outlet for 12 volt. So here's the sink, so we can slide that out. It's on some locking sliders. You open that up, and there's the sink. Lift it up and turn it on, and we've got some water. It's not much in the tank right now, so not much coming out, but we've got a 50 micron water filter, so presumably we could even take creek water and get it drinkable. We've got a pump and accumulator, and then a Y valve there where you can see where it goes out to the outside of the shower, and then one to the sink. We've got a USB charger, and then the dimmers here, so you can dim the lights on and off. In the upper right, we've got a switch here for the galley work light. So we've got it white, or you can switch it off and then have yellow, and that actually works great around camp because the white's fairly bright for working. Inside we've got a place to store our stove, all kinds of groceries. Here's the slider that it's kind of hard to open right now with all the stuff in there, but that's where we can put the AC. And then inside, you've got space for all your pots, pans, cookware, all your groceries for quite a while camping. It's quite big. It's about 2.5 feet in depth there, and you can see the custom built ledge there from red cedar, and you'll see the process of how we made that with turquoise and red coral inlay. And so here's the little shelf where we can cook or do dishes if we'd want. Now walking back around the other side, this is the Arb awning. It's 8 by 8, and so that fully extends, and it's got a light there where you can actually light it up and see it unrolls, and it's got some legs. And inside the other side of our tongue box, you actually have a spot where you can hook the tent up and keep the tent, as well as our hoses and our toilet and everything else you can store in there. And then you can see there's a USB here where we can plug in the light for the tent. So that big bag is the tent that zips into the awning for the kids to sleep in. And on top we've got some racks for a couple of bikes, so we can actually take 5 bikes on the camper. So walking back again through the back and underneath, this is where we've got our 20-gallon tank, and then you can see these extendable legs here for stabilizing. You can actually change a tire on those if you want. And then farther in the back, you can see we've got the fill side of the tank for the water, and then the exhaust for the cabin heater. So closing that back up, that's pretty much the tour of the camper. And there's Liesl again being a great help. All right, so here I am about 6 months in the past, and I'm standing on top of the welded frame. Didn't really record everything that I did in the process, really in kind of fits and starts. But just looking at the frame, it's 1/8 inch steel, 3x2, and the drawbar is 1/4 inch steel. And you can see I've got gussets really everywhere I could, and reinforced all the corners just to make sure we got a really solid build. Now we're looking at the tow hitch in the back where we're going to hook up the bikes, and again trying to make sure there's no critical welds, so welded a bracket together and then welded that bracket right onto the frame, so it's really secure. Now looking at just a dry fit of the 20-gallon tank, making sure we get that fit right. Now looking at the big wheel I welded onto the tongue jack to make sure we can use that on gravel roads if we need to swivel the trailer. And the stabilizer legs welded on so it can now stand on its own. And finally we've got some 2K epoxy paint and all the holes drilled for the trailer wiring itself. Now starting on the fabrication of the tongue box, that was custom fabricated for the camper. You can see a tricky angle I've got to put in there to make that wedge shape. I decided to fabricate the aluminum fenders because it really was a practice for the frame of the camper itself. I used a MIG welder with the aluminum spool, and I think it came out pretty good with my first time aluminum welding. And here we're starting to put on the first bits of the camper frame itself, and now we've got the fully welded exoskeleton. It's Sikaflexed onto the trailer frame, and the exoskeleton itself is fully welded. Now on to panel fabrication. The description below shows the composition of the wall panels. For the floor panel, we used a 1/8 inch ABS instead of the ACM, and for the ceiling, we didn't use the 1/2 inch ply, we used 1/8 inch. These next couple of shots show the dry fit of the Challenger doors. You can see the zip flex tape there for the water intrusion on the bottom, and now the doors dry fit in. One thing I didn't talk about was the fact that the camper is actually 9 feet in livable space on the inside, and the panels themselves are 8 feet, so you can see at least for the sides there's about a 1 foot overlap, and I tried to fit the door right there so there was not too much of a seam, but you can kind of see in the top and bottom. So now with the wall panels fully installed, it was time to do the interior cabinetry work, and my dad came up and we worked together to build over about 3 days the entire cabinetry with, again, the 1/2 inch Baltic birch marine grade exterior ply. So here it is, my dad working on the sander. Definitely worked hard for those 3 days, getting everything prepped, sanded, painted. Now that we had the cabinets fully constructed, it was time to get them fit in and installed inside the camper. So we've got the bulkhead installed. Now we're doing the interior cabinetry. We've had them up on some jacks while we get them lifted and put in place. Wasn't an easy job getting that in and secured. This was just a fun project I thought we could do with the kids, was to route out of some red cedar a fun epoxy river table that could be used as the ledge in the back of the galley. So here it is. We've routed out the river, and Liesel's helping me sand it out, get it finished, and we're going to fill it with some turquoise and red coral. Here we're just trying to see how much is going to fit, get it kind of dry fit before we epoxy it. Here's the first coat of epoxy before we start putting in the stones. Frankly, I didn't get much of the electrical work, but here's the installed solar panel, and the wiring was fairly boring, but it runs up from the solar panel into the charge controller, and then from that tongue box into a fuse panel inside the cabinetry. The wiring was pretty boring, so I didn't get many shots of that. This shows the installation of the Timbren axle system. The tolerance was only 1/8 of an inch from the end of the spindle to the tongue, so that was probably the most technical part of the job. It's coming in late in the process just because this part was backordered for several months before I could get started. The axles themselves are bolted with some pretty heavy-duty bolts, and then there's a pretty heavy piece of steel that's a cross member that goes between each of them. This doesn't look like much, but it was a pretty exciting moment to get the lights turned on for the first time. This shot just shows the start of the plumbing, as well as the install of that river table. The last big job was the installation of this galley hatch on these gas struts. Here's the camper nearly finished with just a few stray wires and the fridge installed. I think this was the day of the first test drive. Now we're out in Big Bend, and you can see how we got the tent deployed and zipped into the awning. And here's the bike rack before we installed the swing away hitch. All in all, it really was a cool project. Just so much to learn. You're doing a different task really every couple of days or so, and lots of things to figure out and learn, and it was really never too monotonous, although it did take several hundred hours to get done. Really big thanks to Sarah for taking over some of my duties around the house to let me get this done in the evenings after work, and really just would encourage anyone that has an interest in something like this to really take on a big project, because it was really rewarding. Thanks again for watching.